What if I told you that exactly 7 days from now, your entire reality could shift? Not through luck, not through chance, but through the deliberate application of a silent law that has governed empires, shaped fortunes, and transformed ordinary individuals into figures of extraordinary influence. You didn't stumble upon this video randomly. There are no accidents in the architecture of power. Something deeper brought you here, to this precise moment, because you're standing at a threshold that most people never even recognize exists. For centuries, Niccolo Machiavelli has been misunderstood, reduced to cautionary tales about ruthlessness and manipulation. But beneath the surface of his political treatises lies something far more profound. A hidden understanding of how reality actually works, how consciousness shapes circumstances, and how strategic awareness can bend the trajectory of your life in ways that seem almost supernatural. Has this ever happened to you? You set a goal. Visualize your success, repeat affirmations, yet nothing fundamentally changes. You feel stuck in the same patterns, watching others effortlessly attract opportunities while you remain invisible. The reason isn't lack of effort or worthiness. It's that you've been operating without knowledge of the silent law. But before we begin, please hit the like button and let me know where in the world you're watching from today. It's always fascinating seeing who's joining us from around the world. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of our future videos. Now, here's what Machiavelli understood that separates masters from victims. Reality doesn't respond to your wishes, your hopes, or even your desperation. It responds to your frequency, your strategic positioning, and most critically, your internal state of self-mastery. You see, most people spend their entire lives looking outward, seeking validation, waiting for permission, hoping that someday circumstances will align. But those who truly command their destiny understand a secret that remains invisible to the untrained eye. The external world is nothing more than a perfect mirror reflecting your internal landscape back to you. Think about it. When you look in the mirror each morning, what do you see? Do you see someone destined for greatness, or do you see flaws, limitations, reasons why success belongs to others but not to you? Stay with me until the end, because what you're about to discover might surprise you. That reflection isn't just showing you your physical appearance, it's revealing the exact blueprint of the reality you're unconsciously creating. Every self-critical thought, every moment of doubt, every instance where you diminish your own power, these aren't just feelings. They're instructions you're broadcasting to the universe, commands that reality has no choice but to obey. Machiavelli wrote about fortuna and virtù, concepts that go far deeper than simple luck and virtue. He understood that fortune favors those who have prepared not just their actions, but their consciousness. The prepared mind doesn't scatter its energy across 1,000 wishes. It concentrates force at a single strategic point, like a general who understands that dispersed troops lose battles while focused power conquers kingdoms. What you're about to learn in these next 7 days isn't theory. It's the operational manual for reality itself, and the transformation begins with understanding why you're here, right now, reading these words. You're beginning to see it now, aren't you? The patterns that have kept you circling the same outcomes, the invisible architecture behind why some people seem to magnetically draw success while others struggle despite working twice as hard. But here's where most teachings on manifestation and personal transformation fall desperately short. They give you faith without strategy, or strategy without faith, and both paths lead to the same frustrating destination, paralysis dressed up as progress. Machiavelli understood something that modern self-help gurus conveniently ignore. He knew that blind faith is just another word for naivety, a dangerous delusion that leaves you vulnerable to forces you refuse to acknowledge. But he also recognized that pure strategy without an underlying current of certainty becomes mechanical, cold, a chess game where you're so busy calculating every move that you forget why you're playing in the first place. The hidden truth he discovered was the marriage between these two forces, calculated faith. This is where the real alchemy happens, where your consciousness begins operating at a frequency that doesn't just hope for change, but commands it into existence. If this resonates with you, subscribe to the channel. I create content that shifts how you see power and reality itself. Hit subscribe so you're here for what comes next. Think about the decisions you've avoided making, the opportunities you've let slip by because you were waiting for absolute certainty, for every variable to align perfectly before taking action. That hesitation, that need for guaranteed outcomes before you move, it's not prudence. It's fear masquerading as wisdom. The universe doesn't reward those who wait for permission. It responds to decisive movement backed by unshakable internal knowing. You develop this by trusting your strategic design while remaining fluid in execution, understanding that the path to your vision may twist and turn in ways you cannot predict, but the destination remains fixed in your consciousness like a magnetic North Star pulling you forward. Now, I want to go even deeper into this dynamic, because what I'm about to share completely transforms how you interact with reality itself. You've been taught to be grateful for what you receive, to express thanks as a kind of spiritual politeness, an obligatory response to good fortune. But that's the amateur's understanding of gratitude. Strategic gratitude operates on an entirely different level. It's political capital, relationship currency, the invisible thread that weaves networks of influence around your vision. When you acknowledge someone's contribution to your journey, you're not being submissive or diminishing your own power, you're multiplying it. Every genuine expression of appreciation creates a bond that transcends transactional relationships. People don't just remember how you made them feel. They unconsciously align themselves with your trajectory, becoming advocates for your success, even when you're not in the room. This is how empires are built, not through domination alone, but through strategic recognition that transforms acquaintances into allies and allies into devotees. The universe itself operates on this principle. What you consciously appreciate expands. Resources, relationships, opportunities, they all multiply in direct proportion to your capacity for authentic recognition. But here's the crucial distinction that separates true masters from pretenders. Your emotional state, while doing all of this, determines whether you're genuinely creating power or just performing empty rituals. You cannot fake frequency. Your emotions broadcast a signal that others read unconsciously, even when your words say something completely different. Machiavelli mastered the art of calculated emotion, displaying exactly what the moment required while maintaining absolute internal composure. This isn't suppression or dishonesty, it's sovereignty over your own energetic output. When you radiate confidence in your inevitable victory, people unconsciously begin believing in your success before you've even achieved it. When you remain unshaken by temporary setbacks, others interpret your stability as proof that you possess knowledge they lack, access to resources or insights they cannot see. Your emotional mastery becomes the invisible force that shapes how circumstances unfold around you. This is the behind-the-scenes mechanism of influence that no one talks about. The controlled vibration that makes some people seem magnetic, while others remain perpetually overlooked, despite comparable talents or efforts. Write in the comments, I choose strategic frequency, if this revelation is landing for you right now. Understanding this principle fundamentally shifts how you approach every situation in your life. But there's a paradox embedded in this wisdom that trips up almost everyone who encounters it. You've been conditioned to believe that effort equals results, that the harder you push, the faster you'll arrive at your destination. So you force, you struggle, you exhaust yourself trying to make things happen through sheer willpower, and then you watch in bewilderment as someone else glides past you, seemingly without breaking a sweat, attracting the exact outcomes you've been desperately chasing. What's the difference? They've mastered what Machiavelli called the art of seeming effortless. True power never announces itself through strain or visible struggle. The greatest rulers throughout history made their victories appear inevitable, as if success was simply their natural state rather than something they had to fight for. This isn't about being passive or adopting some pseudo-spiritual bypassing where you sit around waiting for miracles. It's far more sophisticated than that. You create the conditions, the strategic positioning, the network, the skills, the mindset, and then you allow those conditions to do the heavy lifting. Think of water flowing downhill. It doesn't force its way through obstacles. It finds the path of least resistance and moves with unstoppable momentum precisely because it's aligned with natural law rather than fighting against it. This is the hidden truth behind what looks like luck or natural talent from the outside. People operating at this level have stopped swimming against the current. They've learned to read the invisible forces already in motion and position themselves where those forces carry them toward their objectives. The universe doesn't reward struggle for struggle's sake. It rewards intelligent alignment with patterns that already exist, with currents that are already flowing. Your job isn't to create the river, it's to navigate it with strategic awareness. But here's where the real transformation occurs, and this is the revelation that changes everything. Before any of this manifests in physical reality, it must first exist completely formed in your consciousness. Every conquest, every achievement, every victory begins in the mental realm long before it appears in the material world. Machiavelli understood this profoundly. He didn't just plan political maneuvers, he lived them in his mind first, rehearsing scenarios, feeling the emotional texture of success, anticipating the responses of allies and adversaries alike. This wasn't fantasy or daydreaming. It was strategic mental rehearsal that programmed both his nervous system and the field of possibility around him. When you visualize your desired reality with full sensory engagement, you're not just creating pretty mental pictures. You're encoding instructions into your subconscious mind and broadcasting a signal into the quantum field that begins reorganizing circumstances to match your internal frequency. Feel the weight of success in your body, the texture of achievement, the specific emotions of having already arrived at your destination. Taste it, hear it, embody it so completely that your nervous system cannot distinguish between the visualization and the actual experience. This is how you collapse the gap between current reality and desired outcome, not through wishful thinking, but through deliberate neurological and energetic programming. Yet all of this remains potential energy until you introduce the final element that transforms everything from theory into lived experience, movement, deliberate, strategic, purposeful action that announces to reality itself that you're serious, that you're not just another dreamer lost in imagination. Each concrete step you take sends ripples through the fabric of existence, creating momentum that attracts opportunities, resources, and synchronicities that seemed impossible when you were standing still. The universe doesn't respond to your wishes. It responds to evidence of your commitment demonstrated through consistent action, aligned with your vision. Drop in the comments, "I am moving with purpose," if you're feeling this shift happening inside you right now. This is where the journey takes a turn that most people never anticipate, because everything you've learned about authenticity and transparency has actually been preparing you for a deeper understanding of strategic concealment. You've been told to wear your heart on your sleeve, to announce your dreams to the world, to seek validation and support from everyone around you. But Machiavelli knew something that separates those who achieve extraordinary impact from those who remain perpetually vulnerable to sabotage and interference. Your deepest purposes, your most potent advantages, must remain hidden beneath the surface of your public persona. Think about it. When you broadcast your every intention, your secret weapon, the unique genius that makes you irreplaceable, what happens? You invite competition, criticism, premature judgment, and energy vampires who dilute your vision before it has time to take root. The most powerful people throughout history maintained a public face of service to common interests, while their private motivations remained concealed, protected, nurtured in silence until the moment of revelation arrived with unstoppable momentum. This isn't deception, it's strategic wisdom. You align what uniquely drives you with what the world visibly needs, creating a perfect camouflage for your transformation. When your hidden passion intersects with genuine service, you become a force that appears to be serving others while simultaneously fulfilling your deepest personal mission. The universe conspires with this kind of intelligent duality because it recognizes authentic power that doesn't need to announce itself. But here's where the real test of your evolution begins, and this is the point where most people abandon their path entirely. Obstacles appear, resistance surfaces, people oppose you. Circumstances seem to conspire against your progress, and suddenly all that beautiful vision and strategic action feels like it's crumbling under the weight of reality pushing back. This is the moment of truth. The amateur interprets opposition as evidence they're on the wrong path, as cosmic rejection telling them to give up. But those who understand Machiavelli's silent law see something completely different in these moments. They see fuel. What you resist absolutely persists, growing stronger. Through the energy you feed it with your frustration and avoidance, but what you strategically redirect becomes power you can harness for your own advancement. Every enemy Machiavelli faced became a stepping stone, every obstacle a teacher revealing his next strategic move. The challenge in front of you right now isn't random punishment or bad luck. It's coded information. It's the universe showing you exactly where you need to develop strength, where your strategy needs refinement, what aspect of your consciousness requires evolution. When you stop fighting against opposition and start extracting the intelligence embedded within it, you transform friction into momentum. Subscribe if you're ready for frameworks that actually work, not surface-level motivation. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss the next revelation. This shift in perspective opens up something even more profound, a layer of reality that operates constantly but remains invisible to those still trapped in surface-level thinking. You start noticing patterns that can't be explained by conventional logic, the same number appearing repeatedly throughout your day. A chance encounter with someone who mentions exactly what you were just contemplating. Conversations you overhear that seem to speak directly to your current situation. These aren't coincidences or your imagination playing tricks on you. They're synchronistic signs, the universe's way of confirming you're aligned with the flow of creative intelligence that orchestrates reality itself. Machiavelli paid attention to omens and patterns, timing his political maneuvers according to signals that others dismissed as superstition or random chance. But he understood what quantum physics is only now beginning to prove, that consciousness and reality are intimately connected, that information flows through channels beyond the five senses, and that those who train themselves to read these signals gain access to intelligence that provides an almost unfair advantage in navigating decisions and opportunities. Leave "I see the signs" in the comments if these synchronicities have been appearing in your life lately. Once you start recognizing these signals, something shifts in how you move through the world. But there's a critical component that most people completely miss in this equation. They become so focused on manifesting, on attracting, on pulling opportunities toward themselves, that they forget the most fundamental law governing all exchange of energy, the capacity to receive. You've been conditioned to believe that wanting something is enough, that desire automatically opens you to what you seek. But watch what actually happens when opportunities arrive at your doorstep. How often do you deflect compliments, reject help, downplay your achievements, or feel uncomfortable accepting gifts without immediately reciprocating? This pattern isn't humility, it's energetic self-sabotage. Machiavelli understood that power flows to those who can receive it without guilt, without the compulsive need to diminish themselves or immediately give back. When someone offers you resources, recognition, or opportunities, your refusal doesn't make you virtuous. It blocks the natural circulation of abundance and sends a clear signal to the universe that you're not ready for what you claim to want. The ability to receive gracefully, to accept without apology, to allow support and advantage to flow toward you without manufacturing reasons why you don't deserve it. This is where true transformation accelerates beyond anything effort alone could achieve. But receiving isn't just about external offerings. There's an internal channel that must remain open, a form of guidance that operates beneath the noise of rational thought and cultural conditioning. You've been taught to value logic above all else, to trust only what can be proven and measured and explained. Yet every major decision in your life, every pivotal moment that altered your trajectory, if you're honest with yourself, you'll recognize that something beyond analysis guided you. That quiet knowing, that inexplicable certainty that emerged from silence rather than calculation, that's your strategic intuition. And it's the most sophisticated navigation system you possess. Machiavelli trusted his instincts honed through experience and observation, but he also understood that intuition only speaks clearly when the mind isn't cluttered with constant mental noise. This is where most people sabotage themselves without even realizing it. Your consciousness has become a crowded marketplace of competing thoughts, fears, doubts, endless loops of worry and planning and second-guessing. And in that chaos, the subtle voice of genuine knowing cannot break through. The most powerful decisions aren't made through exhaustive analysis of every variable. They emerge from moments of clarity when you've cleared enough space for wisdom to surface naturally. This process of mental cleansing isn't some abstract spiritual concept. It's practical hygiene for consciousness. Just as you wouldn't expect physical health while living in filth, you cannot expect clarity of purpose or manifestation of desires while your mind remains clogged with limiting beliefs, recycled anxieties, and thoughts that belong to someone else's programming rather than your authentic truth. The revelation here is that most of what you think isn't even yours. It's inherited, absorbed, downloaded from family, culture, media, past experiences that no longer serve your evolution. When you begin deliberately releasing these mental patterns, creating space through conscious stillness, you discover that solutions and opportunities were always there, just obscured by the static. Type "clearing the channel" in the comments if you're ready to release what's blocking your clarity. This clearing creates space for something most people never access because they're too busy drowning in mental debris, the genuine pulse of emotional intelligence that actually governs your reality. You've been told to control your emotions, to suppress what you feel, to maintain a professional mask regardless of internal turbulence. But that approach is precisely what creates the split between your authentic power and your projected persona. Machiavelli didn't suppress emotion. He wielded it with surgical precision, understanding that feelings are data streams carrying vital information about your environment, your relationships, and the invisible dynamics shaping every interaction. When anger surfaces, it's not an enemy to fight down, it's intelligence alerting you to boundary violations or misalignment with your values. When fear emerges, it's not proof of weakness, but a signal highlighting areas requiring preparation or protection. The transformation happens when you stop identifying as your emotions and instead witness them as messengers delivering strategic information. This shift in perspective changes everything. You're no longer at the mercy of emotional storms. You're reading weather patterns and adjusting your sails accordingly. Those who master this internal navigation can display calculated emotion when beneficial while maintaining absolute composure beneath the surface, creating an unshakable presence that others unconsciously defer to. But even emotional mastery hits a ceiling if you're carrying unprocessed resentment like dead weight chained to your consciousness. You might not think about that betrayal from years ago every day, but it's there in your energetic field, broadcasting a frequency of mistrust and guardedness that repels the very connections and opportunities you claim to want. Forgiveness has been misunderstood as weakness, as letting someone off the hook or condoning harm. But strategic forgiveness has nothing to do with the other person. It's about liberating your own creative energy from the past so it can flow fully into your present and future. Machiavelli understood that holding grudges is a luxury that those seeking power cannot afford. Every moment of mental and emotional resources you invest in replaying old wounds is energy stolen from building your empire. The revelation here isn't about becoming a passive doormat or pretending harm didn't occur. It's recognizing that your resentment serves as an energetic anchor, preventing you from moving forward with full force. When you release it, not through forced positivity, but through genuine acknowledgement and conscious choice to stop feeding it, you reclaim power that was scattered across time, consolidating it into the present moment where manifestation actually occurs. This consolidation of energy leads to something unexpected that reshapes how you relate to everyone around you. You start seeing yourself reflected in others, recognizing that the qualities you judge or admire in them exist as dormant or active potentials within your own consciousness. Compassion stops being a moral obligation and becomes strategic intelligence. When you genuinely care about the well-being of those around you, you create a field of reciprocal support that returns multiplied. This isn't manipulation. It's understanding that human consciousness is interconnected, and uplifting others creates rising tides that elevate your own position naturally. Put energy reclaimed. If you're feeling these old chains starting to dissolve, the ripple effects of this understanding extend far beyond what's immediately visible, reaching into the foundation of how you've been conditioned to view strength and vulnerability. You've grown up in a culture that mistakes emotional reactivity for authenticity, that celebrates wearing your heart on your sleeve as if broadcasting every internal fluctuation somehow makes you more genuine. But there's a profound difference between suppressing your humanity and strategically choosing which emotions to express and when. The person who explodes in anger at every provocation isn't more authentic than the person who feels that anger deeply, extracts its intelligence, and then responds with calculated precision. They're simply less evolved. This is where the hidden architecture of influence lives, in the gap between feeling and reaction, between stimulus and response. Machiavelli felt everything: betrayal, ambition, fear, desire, but he created space between the feeling and the action, a deliberate pause where strategic choice could occur. When you develop this capacity, you stop being a puppet dancing on the strings of circumstance and become the choreographer of your own experience. Every emotion becomes a question rather than a command. This anger, what boundary has been violated? This anxiety, what preparation am I avoiding? This excitement, what opportunity is revealing itself? You honor the feeling by listening to its message. Then you decide consciously how to respond in a way that serves your long-term vision rather than your immediate impulse. But here's what nobody tells you about this journey of transformation, and it's perhaps the most counterintuitive truth you'll encounter. The very act of releasing old resentments, of forgiving those who harmed you, of letting go of the justified anger you've been nursing, this doesn't weaken your position. It exponentially strengthens it. Think about the mental and emotional bandwidth you're currently allocating to grievances from your past. Every moment spent replaying conversations, imagining revenge scenarios, or simply carrying the heavy weight of bitterness. That's creative energy being drained away from building your future. Machiavelli forgave, not because he was soft or spiritual, but because he was ruthlessly practical. He understood that resentment is like drinking poison and expecting your enemy to die. Strategic forgiveness means you stop allowing people who hurt you in the past to continue hurting you in the present by occupying premium real estate. In your consciousness, you're essentially evicting them, reclaiming that space and energy for projects and relationships that actually serve your evolution. This isn't about pretending harm didn't occur or maintaining relationships with toxic people. It's about refusing to let their impact extend beyond the actual event into your eternal now. The moment you truly release this burden, you'll feel the surge of vitality that becomes available, power that was locked in the past suddenly flooding into your present reality, where it can actually be deployed toward meaningful creation. And this liberated energy naturally flows toward creating something that amplifies your influence in ways force never could. Genuine connection based on seeing yourself in others. When you act from strategic compassion, understanding that helping someone else succeed doesn't diminish your own prospects but actually expands them, you tap into the multiplier effect of human networks. Write, I release to rise. If you're ready to let go of what's been weighing you down, every network you build, every act of service you provide, every genuine moment of seeing another person's potential, these aren't random acts of kindness occurring in isolation. They're building an invisible architecture of influence that becomes self-reinforcing over time. But none of this external maneuvering matters if the internal foundation remains shaky. If doubt continues corroding your certainty from within. Here's what separates those who manifest extraordinary outcomes from those who remain stuck in cycles of almost. It's not talent, not connections, not even strategy. It's the unwavering quality of their belief in the inevitability of their success. Machiavelli didn't hope his political visions would materialize. He moved through the world with absolute conviction that they already existed in potential form, simply waiting for the right sequence of actions to bring them into physical manifestation. This wasn't arrogance or delusion. It was understanding that belief operates as a magnetic field, organizing reality around its frequency. When you truly believe at a level deeper than conscious thought, when certainty saturates your entire being, you broadcast a signal that others unconsciously receive and respond to. They start treating you as if your success is already accomplished, opening doors before you knock, offering resources before you ask, aligning themselves with what they perceive as inevitable momentum. But here's the paradox that confuses almost everyone attempting to apply these principles. The same certainty that attracts success can become its own obstacle when it hardens into rigid attachment to specific outcomes. You've probably experienced this. You become so fixated on exactly how something must unfold, so controlling of every variable, that you actually strangle the natural flow of opportunity. Machiavelli understood this delicate balance perfectly. He planned with meticulous detail, preparing for multiple contingencies, yet remained internally flexible enough to pivot when circumstances revealed better paths than he'd originally envisioned. This is strategic detachment, the ability to hold your vision with diamond-hard clarity while releasing your grip on the precise mechanism of its arrival. You state your intention to the universe with absolute conviction. You take consistent action aligned with that intention, and then you create space for reality to deliver. Through channels you might never have conceived, the tightest grip loses everything because it communicates desperation, scarcity, a fundamental lack of trust in the abundance trying to reach you. When you can plan without being imprisoned by your plans, when you can desire without being enslaved by desperation, you enter a state of relaxed intensity that paradoxically accelerates manifestation. This brings us to perhaps the most critical decision you'll make in the next 7 days, and it will determine whether this information remains interesting theory or becomes lived transformation. You must choose. Not tomorrow, not when conditions are perfect, but right now in this moment. What is the one primary objective that deserves your undivided focus? Not 3 goals, not 5 dreams, but the singular vision that, if achieved, would fundamentally alter your trajectory. Machiavelli's entire philosophy condensed into one principle: concentrate your forces. Drop one clear target in the comments if you're ready to stop scattering your power. Scattered attention creates scattered results, but concentrated focus becomes a force that bends reality itself. When you commit fully to one clear objective, something remarkable happens that defies ordinary logic. Resources you didn't know existed suddenly become visible. People you've never met emerge offering exactly what you need, and circumstances align with a precision that feels orchestrated by invisible hands. This isn't magic, it's the natural response of a responsive universe to undivided intention. But there's an element that must accompany this focus, something that most people completely overlook in their desperate pursuit of outcomes. You cannot manifest from a state of grim determination, from clenched teeth and white-knuckled effort. The frequency of struggle repels the very abundance you're trying to attract. Machiavelli understood what modern achievement culture has forgotten, that confidence itself is magnetic, that joy is not a luxury to be enjoyed after success arrives, but the very fuel that accelerates its arrival. When you infuse your daily actions with genuine delight, when you move through your work with the energy of someone who already knows victory is inevitable, you broadcast a signal that others unconsciously want to align with. Joy isn't naivety or denial of challenges. It's the supreme declaration of certainty, the visible proof that you trust your path completely. This radiant confidence operates on a level most people never access because they're perpetually displaced in time, living everywhere except where actual power resides. Your mind ricochets between past regrets and future anxieties, replaying old conversations, rehearsing imaginary scenarios, anywhere but here in the eternal now, where creation actually occurs. Every moment of attention you invest in rehashing yesterday or worrying about tomorrow is creative energy stolen from the only point where you can actually influence reality, this present moment. Machiavelli acted decisively in the now while learning from history and planning for tomorrow, but he never confused reflection or preparation with the living present where choices get made and reality gets shaped. The transformation happens when you anchor yourself completely here, feeling the aliveness of this exact instant, recognizing that past and future are mental constructs while now is the only territory where your consciousness can actually operate. In this present awareness, you access the full bandwidth of universal creative energy instead of the trickle that reaches you when your attention is fragmented across time. But even this present moment power requires one final element to become truly unstoppable. You must learn to trust, not blindly, but strategically, with the confidence of someone who has done the preparation and can now allow the unfolding. This is where most people's transformation stalls completely. They plan, they take action, they focus their intention, but then they sabotage everything by constantly seeking external validation, checking for proof, demanding reassurance that it's working. Leave "I trust the process" if you're ready to stop micromanaging the universe. This constant need for external confirmation betrays a fundamental misunderstanding of how power actually accumulates and compounds. You think you're being thorough, staying accountable, seeking feedback, but what you're actually doing is bleeding energy through 1,000 tiny cuts of doubt. Machiavelli trusted his strategic positioning completely, not because he was reckless, but because he understood that once you've done the preparation, once you've set forces in motion through deliberate action, your job is to allow those forces to work, rather than constantly disrupting them with anxious checking and second-guessing. But here's what shifts everything into a completely different dimension of possibility. And this is the element that transforms individual effort into exponential impact. No empire was ever built alone. No significant transformation occurs in isolation. When you find others whose vision aligns with yours, whose strengths complement your weaknesses, and whose commitment matches your own intensity, the combined field of manifestation you create together exceeds anything you could generate individually by orders of magnitude. Machiavelli built alliances not as compromises or necessary evils, but as strategic amplifiers of his influence. When consciousness aligns around unified intention, the universe responds with multiplicative rather than additive force. This doesn't mean forming partnerships with anyone available or diluting your vision to accommodate others. It means being ruthlessly selective about who enters your inner circle, choosing allies based on complementary capacities and shared commitment to the ultimate objective. The right alliance multiplies your effectiveness, while the wrong one divides your attention and contaminates your clarity. But even the most powerful network of aligned individuals cannot compensate for a weak foundation in one critical area that determines whether others defer to your leadership or unconsciously dismiss your authority. Your sense of self-worth isn't built through achievements or validation. It emanates from a source that precedes all external circumstances. When you seek approval, when you need others to confirm your value, you broadcast a frequency of incompleteness that repels respect and attracts exploitation. Machiavelli derived his worth from within, making his validation something others sought rather than something he needed from them. This internal authority becomes palpable in your presence, in how you move, speak, make decisions, and hold space. People unconsciously recognize when someone knows their inherent value versus when someone is performing competence while internally doubting themselves. This shift from external to internal validation creates a foundation that nothing can shake. But there's one more element that most people completely ignore, despite its massive impact on consciousness and manifestation. Your physical environment is not neutral territory. It's constantly programming your subconscious, either reinforcing your vision or anchoring you to outdated patterns. Right, I design my reality, if you're seeing how all these pieces interconnect. Every object surrounding you right now carries energetic information, memories, associations, past versions of yourself that may no longer serve your evolution. That pile of clutter in the corner isn't just messy. It's a constant subliminal message about disorganization and incompleteness. Those items from relationships that ended years ago aren't nostalgic. They're anchors preventing you from fully inhabiting your present power. Machiavelli understood that environment shapes consciousness more profoundly than most people realize. When you clear physical space deliberately, mental clarity follows automatically because your external world mirrors and reinforces your internal state. This principle extends beyond mere tidiness into intentional design of your surroundings as a strategic asset. Every visual element, every object you interact with daily should either support your vision or be eliminated. The universe reads your environment as a declaration of your standards and expectations. When you tolerate mediocrity in your physical space, you're unconsciously signaling acceptance of mediocrity in your results. But when you curate your environment with the same strategic precision Machiavelli applied to political positioning, you create a container that amplifies rather than dilutes your transformation. And within this optimized environment, surrounded by allies who amplify your vision, something remarkable begins happening that most people never experience because they've never created the conditions for it. Your network stops being a collection of transactional relationships and becomes a living ecosystem of mutual elevation. When you surround yourself with people who genuinely want your success as much as their own, who celebrate your victories without hidden envy, who challenge you to evolve rather than enabling comfortable stagnation, you tap into collective resonance that accelerates manifestation beyond anything individual effort could achieve. This network becomes your net worth in ways that transcend material calculation. The energetic support, the shared wisdom, the opportunities that flow through authentic connection, these create compounding returns that money cannot buy. But maintaining this level of strategic alliance requires constant cultivation, and here's where most people allow their momentum to decay. They achieve a victory and immediately move on to the next target without pausing to acknowledge what worked, to express genuine appreciation for the resources and relationships that contributed to their success. Machiavelli maintained power not just through acquisition, but through recognition. He understood that what you acknowledge grows, while what you ignore inevitably atrophies. Gratitude isn't just spiritual bypassing or positive thinking. It's the maintenance protocol for sustained manifestation. Every time you genuinely recognize a victory, every moment you appreciate an ally's contribution, every acknowledgement of a successful strategy, you're sealing that achievement energetically and signaling readiness for expansion. Type, "I acknowledge my power," if you're feeling this complete framework coming together. This is the complete framework, the silent law operating behind every transformation, every rise to power, every shift from ordinary existence to extraordinary impact. You've stayed with me through this entire revelation, which tells me something significant about who you are. Most people click away the moment discomfort surfaces, the instant they're challenged to see reality differently. But you're still here, which means you recognize truth when it speaks to you, even when it disrupts everything you thought you knew. What you've just absorbed isn't entertainment or motivation. It's operational intelligence for reshaping your reality over the next 7 days and beyond. But here's what I know from experience. Information without application remains theoretical, and insights without integration fade back into the noise of daily life. That's why I create these videos consistently, each one building on principles that actually work when you work them, peeling back another layer of the architecture most people never see. If this resonated with you, if you felt something shift as these concepts landed, do me a favor, subscribe to this channel so you don't miss what's coming next. I'm not here to waste your time with recycled platitudes or surface-level thinking. Every video I create is designed to give you practical frameworks that actually change outcomes when you implement them. And drop a comment right now saying, "The silent law found me." Let me know you made it all the way through and you're ready for what this unlocks in your life. Your engagement tells me you're serious, that you're not just consuming content, but actually committed to transformation. If you haven't already, leave a like on this video. It helps more people who are ready for this level of understanding find their way here. And honestly, it lets me know this work matters to you. There's a video right here that takes what you just learned even deeper into territory most people never explore. Click it and continue this journey with me over there. The next layer is waiting for you.